This is Richard Denning, and he's here to talk to us about the Great Fire of London. The first game, right, that you have ever done?
It is, indeed.
It's getting huge buzz here, so I can't wait to hear about it.
Hot off the press.
Yep.
So the Great Fire of London is a board game set in 1666. The Great Fire has just started down here at Pudding Lane.
And these things represent the fire?
This represents the fire. Pudding Lane itself is this little symbol here, but the whole area is already on fire, as you can see.
Sure.
Each of the players in the game are landowners in London. They own houses all around London. So, for example, if you were blue, then all of the houses that are blue on this board would belong to you.
And that was all done random, and we kind of set that up before the recording happened. So
all done randomly. There should be 5 of each colour in each of these 4 areas of the board: the green, the orange, the blue, the purple. Now, each of these houses is worth 2 points in the game, so that if you lose houses, you put them on this little score track here, and you can see you start with 40 points because you have 20 houses, and each house knocks off 2 points off your victory points. Okay. Now, as the game goes on, therefore, the fire will be spreading.
So you're saying the highest point you could have would be 40.
You could start the game with 40.
And that would be very unlikely to continue with that.
You won't end the game with 40.
No.
You will, most likely as not, you will lose 8, 10, 12 houses, something of that nature. And as the fire spreads, then each house is put on the score track.
Okay.
Now, that's one way you get points, by preserving as many of the houses as possible. Another way that you preserve points is by fighting the fire, in a way that I'll tell you in a minute. But when you fight the fire and you take off one of the fire cones, you put it in front of you. This is worth a point at the end of the game. So that obviously, the more you have, the more points you get from fighting the fire. So one of the strategies in the game is to fight the fire.
Fight the fire.
Okay. Another one is to try and protect your property. The third, the person who has the most fire cones earns this card, which is the Hero of London card, which is worth 2 points at the end of the game. And it functions a little bit like the Settler's Longest Road card, in that it can change hands in the course.
Perfect.
Okay. Now, the final way that you earn points is from these objective cards, and there are 4 objectives in the game that are each worth 2 points that you are trying to protect. And these are there's the Temple, which is here. There is Hatton Gardens, the Artillery Grounds, and there is Shoreditch. And each of those is worth 2 points, and each player would have one of these, and you keep it secret through the game. We'll just put it face up so that you can see how that works. So I would be trying to protect Hatton Gardens and you the Temple. But each objective is in twice, so it is possible
that 2 people.
Exactly, 2 people might be preserving the same thing. And obviously in a game of more than 4 players, it will always happen that 2 people at least are protecting one territory. But you don't know that, and one of the fun things in the game is trying to work out what the other person is trying to protect. Similarly, there are 4-point objectives in the game. We have Baynard's Castle that's down here. Should have 3 houses in. Baynard's Castle, St Paul's Cathedral, it was called St Paul's Church in those days, St Bartholomew's Hospital, and Aldgate, which is over here. And so, for example, you would be trying to protect Aldgate, and perhaps I would be protecting St Paul's Church. And these are shuffled in decks and handed out. And the final set of objectives are the 6-point ones. These are the ones that are obviously most important, so worth the most. Bread Street, Guildhall, the Royal Exchange, and the Tower of London itself.
Oh yes, let's protect that.
Indeed, and they're worth 6 points each, and at least half of them, as it typically will definitely burn in an average game. It is very difficult to protect the 6-point objectives.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay, so that's exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to protect things. And the way you actually play the game is, in a player turn, there are three phases. You first of all move the fire, so you manipulate the direction the fire is going. Then you get to move around the board and have a certain number of actions in the game. And then finally you draw a new card, and it's the next player's turn.
Okay.
So to give you an idea of the fire move, in the game you will have a handful of these fire cards, and there are only 4 sorts. There is a north fire card. You can tell it's north because it points north. It's blue, and all the blue links on the board are north, little blue arrows between all the districts. Great. So it tells you can move the fire across them. This edge of the board is blue as well, so it's pretty easy.
Too, yeah.
And if I'm sitting upside down, as I'm doing, I can hold the card upside down because I can see that the River Thames is there, you see. So it's like I'm holding the game board that way up.
Perfect.
So you can orientate it depending on where you are. And if you were sitting there, you could hold your cards that way around.
I love it. I love it.
This is a westward one. This is green. So we've got western there. And likewise, there is a south card, and there is somewhere in the deck a east card. Yeah?
Sure.
So north, south, east, west.
Yes.
Okay. So in a game, you play a card. So let's play a north card. If you play a north card, you can move into a district which is north of the fire. So that means you're allowed to move over these blue arrows.
Okay.
You can also move across these little 4-way arrows. What that means is to go from there to there, you can play either a north card or an east card.
Nice.
To go from here to here, you can play either a north card or a west card, and so on. So it's the 4-way movement arrow.
I love that, yeah.
So we'll burn some Bennets.
And you have those throughout, so the major intersections.
They're all over the board.
Yeah.
So I burnt Purple's house. The purple, I've now made an enemy of the purple player, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And Purple's lost 2 points. I now do my, I go on to my action phase. But there's a couple of other things about the fire movement that's important to understand. First of all, we have a concept that we call the fire priority rule, which means, to give you an example, let's just do that, and we'll pop that in there. Now, if you can burn a house, you must burn a house.
Oh.
Okay? So if I play a west card,
yes.
if I play a west card, I've got a choice from the initial fire going into this space, or this space, because this is a northwest move.
Sure.
Now, this chappie here is the army that was in London at the time. He's one of 200 soldiers with buckets of water, and they were used to fight the fire. There was no fire brigade at that time. It was the London trained bands, they were called. Now, he's there in Tallow Hall, and he's protecting it just by being there. This is empty, it's already been burnt, and someone's probably run in and put the fire out. So we only have one possible move there, which would allow to burn a house.
Okay.
So I'd have to go there.
Yeah.
Right? Now that rule means that the fire keeps on moving. So there are times when people want to move into empty spaces, but the game forces the fire to keep spreading. So it makes it inherently impossible to control the fire.
Sure.
And we have games when 5 or 6 players will get together and we'll try and cooperate and try and completely block out the fire completely. It doesn't happen, because what will happen, they'll do well for 2 or 3 turns, and then sooner or later the fire breaks out. And as soon as it starts to burn people's houses, all bets are off, everybody starts, cooperation falls apart.
I could see that happening.
Okay, so that's basically.
I don't want to be the one to be mean first. No,
exactly.
I don't want to. Now you're like, oh, forget it.
Forget it.
Burn your stuff.
Now, another bit of the fire movement is if the fire moves into a space with more than one house in, all the houses are burnt.
All of them.
Whoomph.
Yeah, because you can't just selectively do it.
And we add more fire cones to the space so that the total number of fire cones equals the number of house symbols that was in the space.
Oh, now you have more places to.
Okay.
Yeah, now you're spreading.
And if this one gets put out, and now it's disconnected from the main fight.
Oh, it goes on top of it.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's how we fight the fire.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll come to that in a minute, but that's how you would be fighting the fire. We've now got 2 fires. So when you get to move, you can choose this fire or this fire. And there's lots of strategy in which one and where you choose it and so on. The third and final bit of the fire move that you need to understand is when you move the fire into a space with one of these yellow banners in, you will find a token.
Yes.
And you get to take the token and keep it.
Okay.
Now the token will be of one of 3 sorts, which we cunningly sorted out and then we've lost.
Oh,
but never
bummer.
mind, nothing to worry about. One of them would be this double fire move token. This enables the fire to effectively move twice. So if I'd moved into that space there, if I'd seen that, I have a choice of keeping it and using it in a later turn, or using it straight away.
To save something.
And it has to follow the same direction as the card you've just played. So I could start in Guildhall, go into into Cheapside, flip the double fire move counter over and carry on down into Bread Street. And I've just burnt someone's objective probably. And that double fire move, of which there are 6 of them in the board, is quite a devastating effect. Suddenly the fire leaps forward and it unexpectedly.
Yeah, okay? Just like a firewood. Yeah, I like that.
So that's the double fire move one. Then we've got these little ones with little gunpowder barrels on. And in a bit we're going to use those to blow up some houses. But I'll tell you about that in a second. Finally, we've got these tokens that are worth 1 victory point. And that literally is worth 1 victory point. You keep it to the end of the game. Yeah. Somebody else's warehouse has gone up in flames and you're richer as a result. Is the rationale. That's the fire phase. Phase 2 is the action phase. The draw card phase is pretty quick actually. Fire phase now, as I said, these chappies here are the London train bands. They're fighting the fire. This is me on a horse. Galloping around London, coordinating the action. I'm taking control of things, okay? I have 4 actions that I can do. Each time you move the pawns, it's an action point to move from one space to the next space. Anybody can move any of the black cones. They belong to the City of London, they don't belong to any of the players.
Nice.
But only I can move my colour pawn. Okay? So, 1, 2, 3, 4 perhaps would be a typical move. Okay, and let's have another move then. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is a put out fire move. But I have to be there. So the army fight the fire as soon as they go into a space that they're in. So as soon as the army move into a space which is on fire, they pop on top of it and they're fighting the fire. They're keeping it back, they're throwing on water. Yeah. But they need somebody with perhaps a few brain cells in order to be able to coordinate the action and get that fire put out. So you have to move into the space and then give the put out fire order, and that takes an action.
Yeah.
Okay, and people say generally in this you need 5 action points to do a spectacular move, so we only give people 4 action points.
And you don't have very many of these and so they could be stuck there for a while unless someone goes there.
And a really nasty thing that people sometimes do in this game is that the firefighters, the little black cones, cannot move out of a space once they're fighting the fire. So this chappie can't move away. No. And if I put another one in, he can't move away. And sometimes people will put several into a big fire, like at St Paul's Cathedral, and pin all of these firefighters. Then, of course, the only thing you can do is to choose these cones to move out. So remember I said that one of the strategies is, do I choose these cones or do I choose these? Well, that's one of the strategies, because now I'm making it easier to put out the fire at Guildhall. Because you cannot put out the fire until it's all completely controlled like that. Yeah. If there's another fire that's not controlled, you have to get another chappie in order to do it. So the big fires are very difficult to put out.
Oh yeah, because there's only 5 of those.
Okay, so that's it. The only final thing that you do in your turn, you can do in your turn, is using the little demolition charges, which are these things with old barrels of gunpowder. And as I said, you pick these tokens up when you move the fire.
When you go to the ones with that are yellow.
So the army can use the explosive barrels to blow up houses to create fire breaks, and that's how they actually stop the fire in 1666.
Yeah, sure. So, and then in the San Francisco earthquake, they had to blow up the houses too.
So you can move. It doesn't cost any actions to blow up the charge. It obviously costs you the action points to move them.
Sure.
So 1, 2, boom. 3, 4 maybe. That would be in a move. Now, this can only be done next to the fire. You can't go and blow up Green's house over here just because you don't like the Green player.
Sure.
It has to be adjacent to the fire. And you cannot blow up the objective areas, the red banner areas that are because you can't blow up St Paul's Cathedral just because you have a house behind it on Ludgate Hill. Because they won't let you do that.
Sure, no, you can't blow up those things.
Exactly.
No.
That is effectively the action phase. Final phase, I said there were 3 phases in the turn. The final phase is I will draw a new card and then it moves on to the next player. Now, if in the process of drawing a card, you reveal, we've created this stack of cards before the game, by dealing onto it the number of cards that it tells you for the number of players that you've got. Okay? So it's pretty straightforward, you just deal on the number. As each player draws a card, they're taking cards out, and time will come when one of the fire stack cards is revealed. When that happens, the player who is active, the player who just revealed the card, takes 3 more cones and gets to put it on the board. We call it intensifying the fire, and it makes it more difficult to control the fire. And it has to be in a place where there is fire which is not controlled. So I can't put it here, but I could put it here or here. And you can spread them around, you know, you could, sorry, these shouldn't be here, of course. You can spread these around like that, or you can put them together. The only rule that applies is that you can never have more cones in a space after you've intensified. Right. Well, the number of houses +2.
+2, oh, okay.
So that one now is warmth, it's all burst into flame.
It's inflamed, yeah.
And that is what I said earlier on about it being impossible to control the fire, because even when you cooperate, a time comes when the player has to put the cones on the board, and then that means those cones obviously will move on. Yep, basically that's it. That's how you play the game. Score up, see how you do it.
It sounds unbelievable. It's getting huge buzz here.
Yep.
People are very into the game. It's called The Great Fire of London.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Richard, for explaining to us. We really, really appreciate it.